Player we did not see. I mean, this was one of the worst tournaments of his entire career. Was Rory McIlroy. Actually nearly finished last. Beat just 4 players through 36 holes. Shot 78 in the second round. That was his worst score in a non-major in about 4 years. What's up with Rory?
Well, I think the driver is the easiest thing to say. And I'll say this. It is shocking to me that less than a month ago, probably, I mean, you're going to call me on the timing on this one, but you and I were probably having the same breathless conversation that everyone else was in the golf media about, man, how many majors can he win now, Rory?
Unburdened.
Yes, unburdened. Like the weight's been lifted. Just imagine what he's going to be able to do now that he's free and he can go out and enjoy himself and he doesn't have all this pressure on him. You and I both know that the strength of Rory's game, everything flows from his ability to drive the ball better than anyone else. And when he's on, he's really, really tough to beat. And you end up with the player that won the Masters and the player that's won 3 times this year and a signature event, the Players Championship and everything that went into it. But very rarely do you see when he's playing bad, that bad. And if this is the driver, and again, he addressed it a little bit last week, but I think there's still probably some questions lingering about if the driver that was deemed non-conforming at Quail Hollow was the one you were so comfortable with and was the one you were able to do those unbelievable things, it's a testament to how difficult it is to actually find the perfect driver that somehow he can't do it and hasn't been able to do it. Because really everything you saw in Canada and everything you saw at Quail Hollow during the PGA, everything I would say they saw that's their classic. I mean, they played decent, but that was more Shane Lowry than it was Rory McIlroy. That was all based on the driver. And if he's not comfortable now going into Oakmont, I don't know how he gets it there.
Yeah, I legitimately do not know if we talked about this on Wednesday as it relates to Rory McIlroy, but he did have a different driver in the bag. So obviously his gamer, the one that he had used for a year, the one that he was playing, some of the best golf of his career at the early part of 2025, the driver with which he finally completed the final leg of the career Grand Slam, that was the one that was deemed non-conforming. That was the TaylorMade QI10. Well, once it got deemed non-conforming, he put his backup in play, did not drive it particularly well off the tee at Quail Hollow, regardless of which driver that he was using. In those interim weeks between the PGA Championship and where he showed up at the RBC Canadian Open, he did some more head-to-head at-home testing and put in a new driver head, the QI35, which is TaylorMade's newest model. That driver head, if you recall, is the one that he briefly experimented with at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Remember that? Over the first 54 holes, drove it poorly, ended up swapping out for the final round, and then went on a pretty epic tear, won the Players' Championship, and won the Masters as well. It's clear there is still some testing that needs to be done, because not only was it a different driver head, he also experimented with shortening the driver shaft. In theory, trying to put the ball in play more often, certainly with an eye on the U.S. Open and understanding how important Find the Fairways is going to be for the year's third major. It was a complete disaster off the tee. He hit less than 50% of the fairways at TPC Toronto. It admitted as much in an interview with reporters afterward in Canada. Like, yeah, I've got 2 or 3 days at home and early week at Oakmont where I need to find something, because if you're not finding fairways at Oakmont, it is going to be an almighty struggle. One thing that I do know that we discussed on Wednesday was sort of the motivation factor, and Roy admitting himself that, it's really tough for me at this point after having this life-altering moment to grind on the range for 2, 3, 4 hours. I'm assuming this was a wake-up call for him that he needed to do just that. But the U.S. Open is going to be a test of patience. It's going to be a test of guts. It's going to be a test of tenacity and perseverance. For as much as Rory McIlroy's skill over the past over the past couple of decades has been distilled into like this awesome, tantalizing power and these birdie binges and so much excitement and thrills, his U.S. Open record, Rex, is phenomenal. Every year since 2019, he has finished inside the top 10. He continues to get better. Obviously, had the close call a year ago at Pinehurst, followed up with that at LACC as well. So, like, he understands how to play down and dirty golf and gritty golf. Does he currently have the game that's going to allow him to do that? based on what we saw at the PGA, based on what we saw at Canada, I have a hard time imagining that he's going to be keeping this top 10 streak alive.
Even after Quail, if you would have asked me, would Rory be one of the favorites going into Oakmont? The answer would have been absolutely yes. Like Scotty is clearly in a category by himself, but Rory's was going to be close behind him. I'm not quite sure he's on that list, or at least the short list. Whatever it is, we'll do on Wednesday night as far as top 5 maybe goes, simply because of the way he's driven the ball the last few events, and that's the one thing you absolutely can't do at Oakmont. By every measure, it's going to be one of the most difficult driving tests that we've seen at the national championship in a long time, to the point that I'm a little concerned, and I'm sure we're going to talk about this more next week, about you always fall back on they're trying to identify the best golfer in the moment. This, I think, has the danger of embarrassing the best golfers because of not just how thick and long the rough is by all accounts, but also they're talking about green speeds in the 14 and 14 and a half on the step meter. That to me is just ridiculous.
With 5-inch rough.
Oh
yes.
Look, there's the agent of chaos that loves every minute of that. Yes.